Well, good afternoon. Hello again. It's Tuesday the 16th of June and we are on day 6 of our virtual Duncan Edwards walking tour. And today we are here at St Francis Church, a place really significant to the Edwards family. So we are back on the Priory estate here at St Francis's Church, and it is a site that's dedicated to St Francis of Assisi, an Italian Catholic friar, philosopher, mystic and preacher who was born in the 12th century and one of the most revered religious figures in Christianity. And he is associated with the patronage of animals and the natural environment. The church was opened in 1931, so it's relatively new compared to the other churches such as St Thomas's Top Church and St James's at Eve Hill, and I will be talking more about those two churches tomorrow. The church foundation stone was laid on the 18th of November 1931, and the church was dedicated by the Bishop of Worcester on the 10th of May 1932. And there is that foundation stone, 18th of November 1931. The church was only ever meant to be a temporary church for the newly developed Priory estate, but it became a full working church after being consecrated in 1949. And this is the church, of course, where Duncan's funeral was taken place on Wednesday the 26th of February 1958, just 5 days after he passed away at 2:15 a.m. on the 21st of February, where he had died peacefully in his sleep at the age of just 21 years old. The nurses who had cared for him 15 days after that fateful air crash at the Riem airport in Munich wept at the loss of Duncan, as did his hometown of Dudley and his adopted hometown of Manchester. I will never forget meeting two of the nurses that had cared for Duncan when we went over to Munich for the 60th anniversary, and to meet one of the nurses that held Duncan's hand as he passed away is something that I will never forget. So these streets around the church were all lined with people wanting to say goodbye to their local hero. And even though so many people were out on the streets that day, here on the Priory, through the main town and the surrounding streets around the cemetery at Queen's Cross, there was an eerie silence about the town. Duncan's coffin left his family home on Elm Road, and it came here. These streets, as I say, were full of people that went to school with him, played football with him, or just remembered a lovely lad who had once walked their streets with a football at his feet. The service was conducted by the Reverend A. Dawson, who said of Duncan, "This superb and modest athlete lived and loved his life amongst us to its full, and would not have undone any part of it, and now it is fulfilled. Go forward, Duncan Edwards, from this place, rich in achievement, honoured and loved by us all." Amongst the mourners, as well as his beloved parents, were football stars of the day, such as Wolverhampton Wanderers star and England captain Billy Wright, who incidentally was one of Duncan's pallbearers and whose birthday had been on the day of the crash, the 6th of February. Jimmy Murphy was here too, the man who had looked upon Duncan as another son, who had taken the young Wilf McGuinness and Duncan on his own family holidays with him. Paul Murphy, one of Jimmy's grandsons, kindly gave me some precious family holiday snaps with Duncan and Wilf on them, and Jimmy, of course, was the man that did save Manchester United from closing. But I wonder who saved Jimmy from the colossal hurt and pain he was surely feeling on that sad day here at St Francis's. More significantly, there was a beautiful young girl from Manchester who constantly played with the Diamond Trilogy engagement ring on her finger. And that, of course, was Duncan's fiancée, Molly Leach, the young girl who had lost the love of her life, as well as all of her friends who'd perished in Munich. They really were a group of friends who treasured time they spent together, and she had many precious memories of those boys that were lost in Munich. She must have felt in those early hours of that morning at the Richter Eiser Hospital in Munich that her life was over and that she would never love again. She did, of course. She married and she went on to have the children she so desperately wanted. But she never forgot the young, handsome black country lad that had once stolen her heart. Now, the church is well known, of course, not only for holding Duncan's funeral, but for the 2 stained glass windows that are here. Now, unfortunately, we can't go into the church because of lockdown. We've just been speaking to 2 of the church wardens who are desperate to get the church open and are desperate for some gardening to be done. So, Paul Murphy, it's a shame that you're not here, darling, because you could come and use your magic here. But I have just volunteered myself and Andy, although he didn't realise it yet, that we will come and do some weeding for them next week, and we are going to give them some PPE so we can try and get the church open. But as I say, unfortunately we can't see these windows in their full glory, and you can't really see them here. But they were designed by Francis Skeet, and Francis Skeet is a very well known glass colourist rather than a stained glass window maker. Quite a lot of difference apparently, not that I'm an expert in it. But his most famous works were the biggest coloured window in the southern hemisphere, and that's in Cape Town in South Africa. And he also did a really well-known painted window to John Brown, John Smith, who was the governor of Virginia and the husband of the famous Red Indian Pocahontas. And he was chosen to do this window in memory of Duncan, which was unveiled by Matt Busby. He wasn't Sir Matt yet. He wasn't knighted until 1968. But it depicts Duncan in his Manchester United kit and one in his England kit. And it was funded, for some strange reason, by Crystal Palace Football Club and by Barnet Football Club. And Barnet's most famous player, of course, is Bradley Walsh, the lovely guy from The Chase. We love Bradley Walsh. So yeah, it's as I say, it's a shame that you can't see it in its glory, because it is quite a magnificent piece. It's in the, even though the church is an open plan church, it is in the Assisi Chapel, and there are lots of reminders of people's visits when they've been and left flowers and cards and things. So they are all dedicated to Duncan and placed under the window. When Andy and I got married in 2013, we married here at Duncan's church, and a lot of Duncan's family came to the wedding, and I left my wedding flowers under the window for Duncan, so he was very much part of our day as well. I will be leaving photos and more information on my roundup when I do a roundup of my talks at the end of the week. So I will put some photos in for those of you that haven't seen the windows from the inside. But that's where they are. They are protected, of course, because they're treasured. So from here, Duncan's coffin was taken to the Queen's Cross Cemetery, and after the funeral cortege had been driven through the town, it passed Wolverhampton Street School, where we were yesterday, where his career had started. On Sunday, we will visit Duncan's final resting place at the Queen's Cross Cemetery. Tomorrow, we are at Stafford Street, on the site of where 2 children, Sarah Ann Harrison and Gladstone Edwards, played in the streets together and were childhood sweethearts. And they went on to get married and have the son that would be known as the greatest footballer that this world had ever produced. So thank you for joining me. Thanks for all your wonderful comments and for your support. It really is appreciated. But for now, there's nothing else to say other than look after yourselves, look after each other, be kind. And I'm going to leave you now with just some thoughts of a young life, of a boy that was full of hope and full of promise, that was lost so many years ago. Thank you.